Deanna will introduce our guest speaker. Thank you, Deanna.
Thanks, Dave. I'd like to introduce you to Corey Williams. He's coming to us to talk about urban farming. The Archway Urban Farming is both a functional farm garden and teaching space to engage the community in learning about where our food comes from. The urban farm focuses on both food security and food justice in our community. We believe that they believe that engaging community members in the production of their own food can create lasting change on how food is purchased, eaten, and have a wider environmental impact. So please join me in welcoming Corey Williams.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's so nice to have been invited here today to speak with you and to meet all of you from the Rotary Club and to share a little bit about what Archway is now doing with the Urban Farm Project. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you do know, if you recall in the old downtown of Abbotsford, behind the Archway Community Services building and behind the old courthouse, there was a small fenced-in garden plot with raised wooden beds growing seasonal vegetables throughout the year. It was a drop-in place for volunteers and for community members to come and be a part of growing their own food. That food was then sold at the farmers market. That property has since been sold. And very fortunately for the Archway Urban Farm Project, the Vanderkoy family, the Eco Dairy, which is down on Sumas Way, there's Nature's Pickens, the Eco Dairy, they've donated a half an acre of land to the project. So that was officially done last October, and the plan was to move in November of last year. And we remember what happened to the Sumas Flats in November of last year. So the project was sort of put to a standstill for a period of time. And really the progress that we have on the farm is now since March of this year. So with this new land, with this new location comes a whole new vision, a whole new set of opportunities and possibilities for this project. And that's sort of where I come in. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in the Fraser Valley, in Abbotsford specifically. I now live in Mission. My background is healthcare. And as a nurse, one of my biggest jobs was coordinating people to work together as a team for the same goal. I think that's really part of the overlap between healthcare and this urban farm project, is that people come from all sorts of walks of life with all sorts of different stories, different motivations, different inspiration, different concerns, and helping them work together for a common goal. And in this case, it's of growing their own food and learning about where their food is grown. So the urban farm is primarily right now a teaching space where we have community members come in, community groups, groups from Archway, groups from, now that school is back in, from the school system, coming in to learn about where their food is grown, about the benefits of local food production, about how to look for local food, and what that actually means. That not only means that you're getting fresher, more nutritious, vitamin-rich foods that have been picked, in some cases, the same day or just the day before, but also food with a much smaller carbon footprint that isn't having to be carted all the way up from the United States, from California, from Mexico. For many, we have gotten so used to having all of our fruits and vegetables year-round. Seasonal eating is sort of a thing of the past now. I remember a time when something like mangoes or avocados or certain other fruits would only be available through certain months in the summertime. And now we're quite privileged. We have avocados year-round, we can get mangoes year-round, all sorts of things that we don't have to wait for. And with that comes a higher demand on our environment, higher demand on water production, huge carbon footprint of trucks and planes and ships that have to take things back and forth year-round. So one of our goals is to educate people on the fact that food does take time. Food takes time and it takes space. But if you're creative with your space, and if you use the space that you have wisely, then it is very, very possible. But you might have to wait. So on our farm now, we have a ½ acre, and our food is grown very much with the seasons, as you would expect. So we just went through our hot summer that we had this year, where we were growing, broccoli and beans and peas and beets and onions. Some of those things are still being produced, but now we're kind of into the fall, of course. So we're into squash, we're into Brussels sprouts, we're into cauliflower. And what we're finding is that the food that we're growing locally and with local resources is actually much more delicious, a much higher quality than stuff that you would see growing from in a hothouse or a greenhouse, or from down in the United States that has taken sometimes a week and a half or 2 weeks to make it up here even. So right now we are growing and producing food for the farmers market, the Abbotsford Farm and Country Market at Jubilee Park. And what we find there, I don't know if everyone is familiar with the British Columbia Farmers Market Coupon Program, but clients of community services, clients of different social programs, seniors programs, new immigrants to Canada, young families, single parents, anyone who's engaged in a program with community services, with Archway, or other community programs, will receive a coupon book to use at the farmers market. So this is engaging people who would normally see barriers to something like a farmers market. Farmers markets have become a bit of an elite activity, where foods because they're grown locally, can be a little bit more expensive. So this farmers market program is breaking down some of those barriers. And as a result, we're seeing a much more diverse, rich group of people coming to the farmers market. 40% of the produce that we grow right now is being purchased by coupon holders to the farmers market. This is also seeing people who access the food bank here in Abbotsford, where they have the opportunity to use these coupons and come and buy their own food and pick their own fresh produce that's of the highest quality. For those coupon recipients, we then invite them to come to the farm, see where the food is grown, bring those same coupons, and in addition to a tour and a brief education session, they can pick their own food. They can pull the food out of the ground themselves. In the time that I've been working on this project, what I have seen is that this not only sparks engagement and community involvement, this not only sparks a difference in how people think about eating and think about getting their food, but it also really opens the door to the social element of food. People who access the food bank, and they might not necessarily think about including their neighbors or including their families and friends in something that they're cooking. I've been able to have conversations with people who come to the farm, pick their own vegetables, and suddenly they're talking about, well, that reminds me of a salad that my mother used to make 50 years ago. And I could make that salad and I could invite my neighbor over. And suddenly they're sharing food. They're eating more nutritious food. They're building community. They're feeling a part of something. And potentially, if they're engaging their children or their grandchildren in this process, they're breaking the cycle of sort of the stigma and the connection between unhealthy eating that can go with the food bank or go with poverty. So the opportunities with this program are vast, and we're seeing a difference on sort of a person-to-person human level with this project. So the other piece, like I said, we're growing food for the weekend farmers markets. We're selling to coupon holders from the BC Farmers Market Coupon Program. But suddenly, now that we have a ½ acre, the opportunity to produce volume has opened for us. We were producing food on a very, very small scale, admittedly, when we were in the garden project behind Archway. And since March, we now have 26 50-foot beds. This is a piece of land at the Eco Dairy that is primarily clay. So not usable land for anything other than maybe grass for feed for the cattle. So we're doing something called regenerative farming, where we are growing on top of the clay with manure, hay, manure, and topsoil. Those are the layers that we use. That then will change the clay that is underneath our beds. So again, 28 50-foot long beds. So what we're finding now is that we are producing for the farmers markets, but we have an abundance of food. We still, of those 28 beds, there are, I believe, a dozen that are not being fully used yet, just because we're trying to sort of keep up with what we have grown. So the hope with this program is in the coming seasons, we will be paired with the bulk buy program through Archway, where individuals can pay a small fee and then receive a bulk bag of freshly grown produce that we will then be a part of supplying, so that you're getting local fresh food. And that we'll also be able to more consistently supply to the food bank. So right now, some of our extra food. So we've had at different times this summer, we've had an abundance of broccoli, or we've had an abundance of zucchini. Anyone who's ever grown zucchini knows that you have an abundance of zucchini. And squash. So there are cooking programs within Archway that we donated our excess produce to. But as we really get into a sort of a full swing, utilizing all of the beds that we have, we will be able to produce a volume that can sustain our involvement with the food bank, with bulk buy, and some of these other programs. So we're coming into September. So again, it's back to school season. So we've got a number of school groups coming for what is called the farm to cafeteria program, which is partially funded by Fraser Health and kind of in collaboration with Fraser Health and public health specifically, where we will invite school groups to come to the farm, learn about food production, learn about soil and sunshine and water use, learn about the nutritional value of the food that they're growing. They will pick their own food, and then they will take it back to their school and be a part of a cooking program. We don't do the cooking end of things with them, but that's sort of that's the loop that we are wanting to show, and that there are easy, accessible recipes that they can take home and teach their families. So this is not only about teaching about the benefits of local eating, but it's about engaging people in their food production, food purchasing, food consumption. So for those of us who've been born and raised in the Fraser Valley, we can all think of memories of food. I drive down the Abbotsford Mission Highway every day, and I think about blueberry season and corn season and the sights and the smells of that. And that sparks memories of my childhood, and that inspires me to think about what I'm going to cook tonight or cook for my son. And what we see is, again, that sort of inspiration that we feel when we're growing our own food is contagious, and that people are sparked with the same inspiration. So it's just something to kind of consider what your food memories are within the Fraser Valley, and how fortunate we are to be able to then go and buy the food that inspires us. And if we can break down those barriers, other people can be inspired and then reach out and make some of those changes to their own within their own families, within their own eating, and connect to community. So that's the farm project. Just a couple of partnerships where we've been partnered with the Abbotsford Canucks over the summer. They came and helped us out this summer and helped build some beds. And our hope is that in the fall, they're going to come back and continue with that. And there's a number of Archway groups in the school district as well, but we're always looking for volunteers and community partnerships. So that's the urban farm. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Sure, there will be a few. Anyone?
I have multiple questions. Sure. Corey, thank you for the presentation. Doris, can you hear me? Okay. I have three questions. I'll ask the first two, and then depending on your answer, I'll decide on the third. Just to go back to what you were talking about with the farmers market program, you said that these coupon books are available to social agencies. So can you just maybe expand a little bit on, like, how would a nonprofit get on the program? What hoops are involved? Can you give us a little more information about the coupon program?
Absolutely. Admittedly, my context is through Archway. So anyone who, again, either accesses the food bank or accesses a program like there are some seniors drop-in programs. There are parenting and family drop-in programs. There's a dad's program. Anyone who's engaged in those programs, the management of that program has access to distribute the coupon books. And I believe that there are other community programs that can gain access. Those are done through the provincial government. And I believe if you search for British Columbia Farmers Market Coupon Program, I think it just requires sort of an application or reaching out that you're interested in being able to distribute them.
Okay, that's super. So my second question is, you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said 12 out of 50 beds are currently underutilized or not used at all. Is that right?
They're new. So these have been developed and built up over the summer. So all of our beds are sort of raised heap style beds. So we have a couple of those beds have only been put in the last month.
Right. So now, understandably, because you're under the Archway umbrella, it makes sense that you're going to support the food bank and the Best for Babies and the dad's program and all that kind of stuff. And if you're partnering with the school board, it also makes sense that you would, be supplying to them. My question is, as the director of this program, do you have the authority and the latitude to go outside of Archway to partner with other local social agencies? So if there was a social agency that was doing similar but different work than what Archway is currently offering that could benefit from fresh vegetables, is that something within your realm of authority, or does that have to go up the food chain to Rod, or is there somebody in between? Who decides who gets the food is ultimately my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're very open to different partnerships, and the sky's the limit right now, really. So I must say, I'm not the director, I'm the community coordinator. The director is sitting here.
Oh, it's a Rotarian. So I know, and I got some leverage there. Okay, super. All right, fair enough. Because you're way more intimidating than she is. I mean, I know her better. She frightens me more than you do, but that's only because I don't know you as well as I know her. Fair. Okay.
But yes, the opportunity for engaging with different community groups and collaborations is absolutely open and possible.
Okay, so third question that I'm really reluctant to ask, but I will regret it if I don't. In the introduction of you as our speaker today, there was a term used that I'd never heard before, but it put up all kinds of red flags to me. Would you please explain to me, and be gentle because I'm old, what in the world is food justice? Because I'm overwhelmed as an old white guy with guilt already. So please, if it's just about reducing my trucking and carbon footprints, I've already come to grips with that guilt when I eat strawberries in December. But what is food justice, and why should I feel guilty about it?
I don't think you need to feel guilty about it. I think that the systems that we have in place in our society are there, and that create some inherent barriers. I think food justice is about bringing down some of those barriers to make food accessible to all individuals. And to me, the Farmers Market Coupon Program is such a living example, kind of a breathing example of food justice, that by bringing down the barriers to engaging in something like a farmer's market, they would have some barriers around, maybe around language, maybe around accessibility, and certainly around cost. And it could be an intimidating thing that could stop a family or an individual from wanting to access it. Food justice is about saying we are all should have a fair opportunity to eat healthy, nutritious food and engage in the purchasing of that and the cooking of that. Yes, sir.
Hey, this is terrific. And, I'm thinking about our community, who would be the most needy. And have you ever thought about how to benefit the homeless in our community through this program?
To me, yes, I have thought about that. And that's something that I would love to see continue to expand. We have reached out to some community groups that support the homeless population here in Abbotsford. It becomes a question of accessibility and how do we do that. And to be honest, I think that needs some more work and some more time. when we were located at the behind Montrose, behind the Archway building, that was a very central location. Now that we're down on Sumas Way, we are a little bit removed from the downtown core of Abbotsford. Although with the homeless population being down off of Sumas Way on Alonzo Avenue, and there's some encampments that are actually quite close by. My hope is that we could start to look at that in this upcoming season.
Thank you, Corey. Is there any other questions before I ask mine?
I have one.
Why don't you go ahead, Doris, and then we'll go to Dave.
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment, actually. Thank you for your presentation today. I have one staff member that is very adamant about supporting herself in her own space. She has 18 by 4 beds in her backyard. She has a greenhouse that's 12 by 7. She has a 30 by 2 foot plot in the front, and she has 23 30-liter bags, grow bags. That's one city lot, and her place is generating enough food to support herself and her own family. We all have that capability to do if we put a little bit of effort and energy into it, and it doesn't have to be the entire lot. In her case, this is her passion, but for any of us, we could be growing our own vegetables in our own backyard. Aaron's place he's got a huge garden that he grows, but he has a lot of space. But the staff member that I have, it's just a standard city lot, and she's growing so much food that she can't possibly use it all. So it's an encouragement. We all can grow our own food. I think we're all kind of lazy and we don't put the effort into it, or we just don't even know where to start. So maybe we need to train ourselves how to grow our own food. Everybody has the capability, if they have a house or a place that they're living, to grow their own food.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. What I'll add to that is one of the things that we like to show people and teach people who come to the farm are about microgreens. We grow trays of microgreens and sell them. And for anyone who doesn't know what a microgreen is, it's really just a baby plant, the shoot of a plant, of a beet, of kale, of arugula, of broccoli. And those microgreens that grow to be about 1.5 to 2 inches in length are packed with nutrition, are much more dense in vitamins and minerals than the actual fully grown vegetable itself. And all they require is a small tray of soil that could be sat on a window ledge or sat on a patio or balcony, and one package of seeds that could cost $2.50 or less if you got them on sale. And that can be enough to just sort of spark the inspiration that you don't need any space other than maybe a 1 by 2 foot tray of soil. And so that's something we like to show off at the farm. Yes, sir.
Maybe you already said this, I wasn't paying attention, but do you promote to the public, give any tours? Could somebody come and take a look at any particular time?
Absolutely. So we have volunteer drop-in days on Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings. And we also have groups, we have drop-ins for groups on those same days. So anytime on Tuesday or Wednesday, you're welcome to come in. That said, the farm is open from Tuesday to Saturday. There's no gate, it's open, and there's always someone there. So you're welcome to come in and anyone would show you around. But Tuesdays and Wednesdays are days that I'm there and I'd be happy to give a formal tour. And then of course, if there was a larger group or a specific need of the group, if you contacted me by email or by phone, I would be happy to arrange a specific time and situation for you.
Corey, thanks for this presentation. You said something at the outset early on where you made comparison cost of production, comparing, let's say, California imported goods with produce found at our farmers market. And you made a comment about the cost of locally grown. And I would have thought that given the cost of transporting would alone make that produce somewhat more expensive than locally grown. Is there a case of where local entrepreneurs, farmers are actually, this is perhaps their sole income, that they're jacking the price up to a level because they know they can get it, especially in the cities, where they can make fairly good income on the produce they grow, more than perhaps, I shouldn't say they should, but they could sell it for less and still get by.
Yes, I think so. And I think can see that in some of the independent produce stores here in the Fraser Valley and in Abbotsford, that there is an inflation in those costs based on the fact that they can say that it is local, or in some cases say that it is organic or nearly organically grown. And there is an inflation there. So when we're at our farmers market, we're very mindful of that. We don't want to run the other farms out of business, but aware that keeping our prices in check, again, also makes it more accessible and reduces some of the barriers there. It's not to say that farming isn't expensive and that it doesn't require a lot of time, a lot of labor, a lot of resources, because it does. And I think depending on the farm setup and depending on the supports and supplies that they have, there are a lot of costs there. But we're also very fortunate on our farm to have things like our manure donated, our water donated, volunteer assistance, and those are things that can obviously keep our prices down a bit too.
Great. Thank you for that answer. I was going to ask a little bit more about the beds themselves. Are they like boxed in raised beds, or I heard you say mounds, or are they just open?
They are open.
Okay.
So there's grass between all of our mounds, and I'm sorry I don't have a slideshow here for you today, but maybe that encourages everyone to come by the farm someday. So they are mounds. So they actually the mounds end up being about between 1.5 feet and 2 feet in height. They are not sort of squared off with wood or boxes. They're surrounded by grass. And like I say, so over top of the clay base, we put a layer of manure and then a layer of hay and then manure and then topsoil. And the topsoil comes from Net Zero Waste here in Abbotsford. And all of the manure comes from the Eco Dairy, donates it to us.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. That was my question. Any last questions? No? Okay. Then I'm going to thank you. I'm going to come over here and do it. So in our club, we like to thank our guests by making a donation to Food for the Hungry. So that works in line with what you are doing there. We support a gal named Jeanette Tenkara in Ethiopia. And so thank you very much for your being here today. And Dave will take a picture.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Corey. That was awesome. Yeah, very informative. I was impressed with your presentation for a number of reasons, one of which was that the way in which you delivered it without prompts on the screen. You obviously know the content of your what you're talking about very well. You sounds like you live and breathe it. You obviously do. All right, I'm going to call on 3 people here to make some announcements. We'll start with Bruce, and then we'll have Alan, our visitor from Abbotsford Sumas Club, and Deanna, in that order.
Thank you, David. First off, just by way of follow-up, for those of you that were in attendance on Thursday night at our first happy hour event, can I get a little feedback? Was the event and the venue, anybody have any problems with the service, the food, or anything that I need to work on for the next one? Okay, all right, it's good. I'm glad to hear that. For those that weren't able to attend, Doris, if you want to pop up that announcement. We are already planning our next event, which will be the 3rd Thursday of November, the 17th. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this year we've made a commitment to our happy hours with our community service grant recipients. So the next one will be with the Center for Epilepsy and Seizure Education of British Columbia. It happens Thursday, November the 17th. And unlike the previous one, we will run this event from 5:30 to 6:45. We'll be quitting 15 minutes early because it's our last happy hour before Christmas, which means that we all deserve a Christmas present. And so I am pleased to announce that this coming happy hour will be a 2-location event. The second event will be at a mystery location that will not be disclosed until the evening of. But it will involve gourmet chocolate tasting. So we will do our standard happy hour at the trading post from 5:30 to 6:45. It's before 6:45. Those in attendance will be given a map to find the second location. And then we will have an hour of exclusive